Okay. Looks like we are live there. Let me hit live on the other two pages and get the ball rolling, and we are good to go, gentlemen. All right. All right. There we are. Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone's doing pretty well. Hope the weekend's treating us pretty well.
No complaints.
Yes. It's a Saturday. Good or bad, it's still a Saturday, and that's what matters, right? Well, we have a special guest on today who was kind enough to hop on and hang out with us for a bit today, Mr. Billy VanZandt. Love to give you a huge introduction, buddy, but it just speaks for itself. I'm just really, really glad you were able to come on and join us. And by the way, I owe you an apology for a letter D.
For what? Oh.
For a letter D.
You weren't the first person to do that. When Jaws 2 opened, my hometown put my name on the marquee, which was very sweet. And they spelled my name wrong. So,
you know, ironically, I'm putting it up and I spread it across a couple of pages and I caught it. And I'm going, change it. I had to change it on every page. And you beat me to the punch on that one. So,
right.
So my apologies, and I
all good.
Appreciate you being a good sport. So how are things going for you? Still extremely busy?
Always.
Still going or not?
Always busy. Yeah. I'm doing a little mini book tour to launch my new book, and that's been going great. And I had a couple of Jaws 2 reunions with my fellow castmates at a couple of conventions. We don't do many of them, so this was fun. It's just a good excuse to all get together and hang out.
That's great. And the relationship that you guys continue to have is just, I mean, it's amazing. It truly is. Every time I see it pop up. I was lucky enough to meet a couple of them down in Tampa over the summer, and it's just neat to hear that, because I think that's something that's hard to come by.
Yeah. It's funny. A couple of years ago, I mean, a lot of us have really kept in touch ridiculously close. But a couple of years ago, Tom Dunlop, who played Timmy, he called me up and said, "I'm coming out to LA. Let's have dinner." I said, "Well, I'm going to have dinner with Gigi Vorgan." And I said, "Oh, I'll invite her too." So within 36 hours, I had hung up the phone and made some phone calls. We got the entire cast and crew together, and we all had dinner together. It was great, and it was like we had all seen each other before. It was terrific. We had Lorraine Gary and Sid Sheinberg and Jeannot, and it was great. We had a good time.
Totally amazing.
I was going to say, I think there's pictures of that in the book.
In
your book, Mike.
Yeah, in the Jaws 2 book.
Oh yeah, that's right. I wish we'd had a better photographer than my phone, but it all happened so fast, nobody even thought about it, you know.
Hey, you work with what you got.
Hey, we got one of our locals here, Victor, hopping on saying, "Welcome, Billy VanZandt." So yeah,
hello,
very
Victor.
nice.
Hi.
Yeah, big Jaws 2 fan. So if we could start, could you give us a little bit of background of you getting into acting, the entertainment, the writing? What was, as a kid, what possessed you to kind of go in that direction? Was it a family thing? Was it?
No. Nobody in our family. My father sang in a barbershop quartet for fun. That was about it. But I was one of those kids that I was always putting on plays in the backyard for all the neighborhood kids, and I'd do puppet shows for my cousins. And but the thing that got me really hooked was I Love Lucy, Lucille Ball. In New York, they would run that 10 times a day, and I would watch it 10 times a day. But I studied it. I studied the scripts. I studied how they structured the scripts. I studied the timing of the actors. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was also studying how to be a producer from what I was reading about Desi Arnaz and Jess Oppenheimer. So that show really was the reason I got into all this. And I started in ninth grade. I wrote the school show, and in high school, I ran a children's theater. I directed and wrote. I think I was 15 years old. I directed and wrote a children's theater company out of a local theater. And And then when I was right after Jaws 2, I wrote my first, what I would call the adult play,
Mm-hmm.
because I was on the set of Star Trek and I was bored out of my mind. Well, I was, because originally they had cast Robert Wise, who directed it, and I was thrilled to get to work with him. He cast me as the alien on the bridge with all the regular guys, but Leonard Nimoy was not coming to work as far as we knew. So I thought, I'm going to be the only alien on the bridge. This is going to be fantastic. Well, then he came to work. And suddenly I had less and less to do. But because this was the first Star Trek movie, there was so much secrecy involved. They had me trapped in my dressing room when I wasn't on the set. They didn't want anybody to see my makeup. I wasn't allowed to go to the commissary. It was ridiculous. So my girlfriend, Jane, at the time, I said, I'm not going to sit here and do nothing. Bring my typewriter. It was before computers. Bring my typewriter in and we'll write a show for ourselves. So that's what I did. And then here we are 100 years later, and 25 plays all over the world. And it's been a great ride.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. So that's what kicked it off. You were basically in solitary confinement during Star Trek, and that kind of spurred you up. That's
I wrote my first show. I wrote my first show with alien makeup on. I'll tell one story about Star Trek quickly. Again, it was secrecy. Nobody was allowed on the soundstage at all. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Jane, come with me. I'll sneak you on. You stand behind these lamps and stuff, and you can watch us shoot something. So I got her in there, and I hit her pretty well, and we started to shoot a scene. And all of a sudden, William Shatner goes, "Cut! Wait a minute. There's somebody back there." And I thought, oh my God, I just got And instead he says, "You can't see from back there. Somebody get this girl a chair." And they put the chair right next to the camera, let her sit there. And, he gets a bum rap from the other cast members of Star Trek. And I don't know why. I never saw any animosity. And I thought he was a lovely guy and had a good time. And I love him especially for that moment right there.
Well,
Because I know when I saw the movie, I saw it here in Kansas City. The first time I ever drove in snow, being from Florida, I only did like 2 donuts in the street a couple times.
Yeah.
But I remember the scene where he addresses the entire crew, and then the important people leave, and it's like all the original series cast and you. And I'm like, Billy's got a great role in this. And then it's like, oh, where'd he go?
Yeah. So I spent most of my time in the background doing that. In fact, I went to the first day I was there, and I know the Trekkies are really into everything of how it all works. So I went to George Takei and I said, I want to be, thorough. So when I'm at the thing, when I'm at the keyboard, what am I, what should I be hitting? He said, I don't know. I just do this.
Hey, if you don't mind me asking, I read a great story that you told with your background with Lucille Ball about how the first time you went, you more or less showed up at her house when you moved out to the West Coast, and then ironically listened to her tell a story about a similar situation. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. When I came out to do the reshoots for Jaws 2, and Jane and I drove straight to Lucy's house, because I was a fanatic. Back then it was called being a fan. Now it's called stalking. But I went right to her house, and we pull up in front, and I got out of the car, and Jane said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I got to meet her. She's the whole reason I'm doing all this. I got to meet her." So Jane hid under the dashboard. I got out. I walked up to the walkway, and I knock on the door. And a door opens, and a Japanese houseboy answers the door. And I said, "Billy VanZandt's here to see Lucille Ball." "She's not home." Slam the door in my face. Right back in the car, we drive away. 10 years later, I'm now invited inside Lucy's house because I've gotten to know her from working on her last TV show. And it was phenomenal for me. And we get to talking about Buster Keaton and the Marx Brothers and all this stuff. And I said, "What about Charlie Chaplin?" I said, I never saw a picture of you with him, but I can see how he influenced your work, and you imitated him a couple of times in some of your shows. She said, "Well, no, I never met him, but I'll tell you a funny story. In 1976, I was in Switzerland, and I found out where he lived. So Gary and I drove to his house, and I started to get out of the car, and Gary said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I got to meet Charlie Chaplin." And Gary hid under the dashboard, and I got out. I walked up to the front door, and I knocked on the door, and the big fat housekeeper answered the door, and I said, "Hi, Bill. Lucille Ball's here to see Charlie Chaplin." And she said, "He's not home," and slammed the door in my face. Got back in the car, and we drove away. The exact same story. I did not tell her my portion of that story because we had just finished talking about how the house was really accessible. There were no gates or anything. It was right on the street. And somebody asked about, what do you do about fans? And I said, "Oh, if any fans get out of hand, we press a button and bars come down over the windows." But I thought, well, I better not tell my side of the story. They're going to call the police and throw me out of here. So I never told. I told Lucy Arnaz that, but I never told her mother.
Yeah. And you worked with her 2 or 3 seasons on the Life with Lucy show?
The last her last show, Life with Lucy, my Ann Dusenberry from Jaws 2.
Yeah.
As her daughter. And Ann said, as soon as I got the job, I called my mother, and the second person I knew I had to call was you. So I jumped on a plane immediately, and I flew out there. And as I get there in time for the first table reading that I'd get to see, Ann said, "Billy, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's a closed set, and they won't let anybody in." I said, "Oh, okay." And I snuck up to the back of the bleachers anyway and hid back there so I could watch. Shouldn't have done that, but I did. And all of a sudden I see Lucy come in, and they all sit down around the table to start reading the script. And she gets up, and she looks up, and I can tell she sees me, and she walks up to the front of the bleachers. "Hi, Billy, I heard you were coming." And from that point on, it was still a closed set, except for one person. I got to sit there and watch the rehearsals. And watching her rehearse was phenomenal for me. And the only part that was weird for me was because I studied everything she ever did and really fine-tuned my timing based on that. She would start a punchline, over here, and then she'd finish it over there. She'd start the punchline over here and finish it over there. And I sort of got that ingrained in how I performed until I saw her rehearsing, when I realized she'd start the line over here because she was reading it off of cue cards. So that freaked me out a little bit. But anyway, while I was there watching that week's rehearsal, I saw a script for the for the next show, and I went, "Oh, there's a delivery boy in there. I'm doing that." So, make a very long story short, I went and I ended up auditioning and getting that role. And when I showed up for work that Monday to be on the show, Gail Gordon stuck out his hand and said, "Welcome to the family."
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then at the end of that week, she said, "What are you doing next Monday," or whatever it was? And I said, "Nothing." Why? She said, "We're going to watch the show debut at my house. Why don't you come over?" Sure. And that's where I, told her the Charlie Chaplin story. So, and we kept in touch a little bit. I mean, I wasn't like her pal or anything, but we a couple letters went back and forth for the last couple of years of her life. And they say never meet your idol, and I highly disagree with that, because she was everything I wanted her to be. She was great.
And by all accounts, she was a great person with the staff and the crew, and she'd come out and eat lunch with the grips. Good.
Mhm.
Yeah. They held
That's awesome.
at Desilu. They had picnics every year for all the people who worked on her shows. The ones she produced, as well as the ones she was in, and they have sack races and that kind of stuff. It was just an old-fashioned thing, and they did it all through from I Love Lucy through the end of it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think I have a clip of that. Would you mind if I pull it up?
Oh God. Sure. Go ahead.
You can say no. It's perfectly fine. All right. Let me grab that. I think I believe I do. Let's see if that's what this
Billy
is.
VanZandt, this is your life.
Yeah, right.
Oh, big David Niedermeyer's, I know about that. I'm dead. You're not dead, you're just not a lot of fun.
When you see for yourself, I'm in the obituary.
Oh. Curtis McGibbon, Pasadena merchant, beloved and devoted father and grandfather. It's a nice write-up, Curtis.
To say,
It's obviously a mistake. You're standing right here. I can pinch you.
some people have no respect for the departed. Oh. Yeah,
Flowers for the McGibbon family?
wonder who these are from.
Of the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce. Sorry to hear about old man McGibbon.
I'm old man McGibbon.
Gee, and you look so lifelike.
Well,
Very nice.
Bow tie. I like the bow tie look.
The funny,
Yeah.
the funny thing was, as soon as that, because she did her shows the way she always did her shows. You do one take of every scene and you move on like it's a live play.
Mhm.
All I remember is the door slammed on me, and I immediately said to one of the actors backstage, "I want to do it again." And he said, "Shut up, we're filming." It's like, yeah, that was fun.
That's great. And stuff you can't make up, you can't conjure up that, That's incredible.
Yeah.
We got Robert on saying hello.
Hello.
Hi, Billy, as well.
Hello,
Yeah.
Robert.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert.
Yeah. Awesome. And so Jaws was kind of like more or less like big breakthrough, like got you up, got you going on the map. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I'd always
Jaws
done theater. I started out in community theater, really, and then I got a manager and an agent and started working out of New York and all that stuff. But Jaws 2 was my first movie audition, and I remember Shirley Rich was the casting lady, lovely lady, and she really made everybody feel comfortable enough to do your best, I think. A lot of casting directors try and intimidate you for some reason. I don't quite know why, but she was lovely. And we ended up, I guess it was, I had a callback, and that I had auditioned, and then I came for a callback, and we spent most of the afternoon, a whole cast of people at, I think it was the Hilton in New York, and you'd read with different people back and forth, trying to get chemistry together. And then out of the blue, they asked me to do a monologue, and I didn't have a monologue prepared. So I thought back to, I just pulled this out of the air. I had done a show called El Grande de Coca-Cola, which was done in, and it's a bunch of bad actors putting on a variety show, and it's really funny. But I didn't write it, but it was, it was really funny. And so I ended up doing that monologue in Spanish. I couldn't begin to tell you what I even said. All I know is that I started making things up, and they didn't know. So it was great. But that was for John Hancock and Dorothy Tristan, and they cast me and David Brown. I guess he was there too, and Richard Zanuck. But yeah, and then we ended up in Martha's Vineyard soon after that with some of the people who went on to film the film and some who did not.
Right.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued by the John Hancock kind of version. I mean, Mike has interviewed John Hancock, and we've heard some things before, and just, I don't know. I guess you're always kind of like, as much as I love Jaws too, kind of like, that thing that you can't have. You're kind of interested in it, and it just seemed. Was it as vastly different as what we know, or as what we think?
Yeah. It was definitely a dark adult horror film.
Right.
It definitely would have been R-rated. The one scene at the beginning, when outside the Holiday Inn, when you see the fin just come out of the water in the harbor, that tells you what the rest of the film would have been like. It was creepy, and I always have to give credit to Jeannot, because I think he did a phenomenal job with what he had.
Sure.
Most directors, you got a year or 2 years to prepare your film. Jeannot had what, 3 weeks? You know,
I was gonna, he it was similar to him with Spielberg, where I mean he was literally writing on set, isn't that right?
yeah. Carl Gottlieb was brought in after they let Dorothy go, and Carl would write. I felt so bad having been a writer now. I feel so bad for what we put him through because he would spend every day in the hotel room writing the next day's scene. Then he'd walk out of the, we'd come out for air. He'd come out to try and get a meal or something, and everybody he passed, how's it going, Carl? How's it going, Carl? You know, and I've been in that situation. You don't want to hear that. You're just left alone so you can do your thing. But so Carl would write the night before, Jeannot would shoot it with no preparation, and thank God he had worked in television. He was used to working fast. But and thank God we had the crew we had. We had a great crew of people. So yeah, it was vastly different. So I always think, is Jaws 2 as good as Jaws? No, it's not. Of course, Jaws is a classic and is never going to be topped. But if you know what went into Jaws 2, you're going to like it a lot more than, people don't care what went on backstage. They just want to see a good film. But once you know what they actually went through to put this together, I think they did a phenomenal job. But John Hancock, getting back to John Hancock, I really, other than the R-rated versus PG thing that we ended up doing, I don't know why he got fired. I really don't. And there's been a lot of different speculation. Michael probably knows better than me. But my understanding was it was just too dark.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still don't know why I was the only actor, literally the only actor who didn't have to re-audition for the new director. And I don't know why that happened.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, because I know there was quite a few changes there too between the first and second.
They all flew out to the original cast flew out to California, and Ann Dusenberry lived right by Universal, so everybody hung out. I found this out later. They hung out at her house, and one by one, they would go and re-audition and come back to her house, and re-audition and come back to her house. And finally, there were phone calls made to Ann's house, and she'd be on the phone, and she'd find out what name didn't get, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in. And I knew nothing about that. I was back in New Jersey, just hanging out, going to the beach or something. And I was told to go, flying to Florida, you're going to start the movie again. So I get down to Florida, new director, new writer, and all these new people. Keith Gordon and Ann and David Elliott and somebody else. But we were the only cast members from the original thing. And I'm still friends with the people that got fired too. We think of that as sort of our class reunion, our high school class reunion, because we were together for so long, and it was pretty much the first movie for almost everybody in it.
Oh, amazing. I have a quick little shot, if you don't mind, from Jaws 2. Are you all right with that?
Oh yeah, sure.
I thought
Make sure it's me and not Keith Gordon. I can't tell you how many photos I get in the mail that say, "Can you please sign my picture?" It's like, that's Keith Gordon. So,
do you really?
Yeah.
Because you almost always had the hat on though, so did he. Now that you say that,
he had a blue hat on. And that's so if I get those things, I had to stop doing it because I thought it was just too rude. But I take that picture and I put an arrow pointing off camera and I write my name.
We do have a comment or two here. Robin just kind of laughing at your.
Hi, Robin.
Return there, and Robert saying, I believe one or more of the teens were to die in that. Well, actually, Robert, this guy was originally died. And in fact, maybe I'll play the clip. Maybe you come back because I've heard so much conjecture about how you died and then how that changed and then and continues. So let me pull the clip up real quick if you don't. Now, the clip that I have happens to be the bar scene clip. I just always thought was done well. Just the teenagers interacting before the adversity set in. Here we go.
Hey, Mike. I saw your dad over at town hall. I know. Hey, did he really freak out on the town beach?
I don't know. Hey, don't worry about them. It's all bullshit anyway. Hey, Ellen. You know this is the only dump in town where the garbage man delivers?
Hey, anybody want to go to the lighthouse?
Now at night?
Tomorrow. Maybe spend the day. My dad left a couple of cases of beer in the garage.
Is it still there?
Well, it's kind of vacationing on my boat.
Hey, Mike, you gonna go?
Yeah, why not? Because you might be painting toilets at the beach. Very funny.
Hey, are we gonna have a picnic?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Ellen behind the bar was our sailing instructor.
Ellen Demi. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes.
That's excellent. Awesome. So we have a question here. We'll kind of come back to that. Someone is popping a joke here at you, and now I'm wondering if you've ever heard this before. You were so good in Christine. Have you ever heard that before?
No, that's good. Very good, Robert.
It is.
Yeah.
It is pretty
Now
good.
that location, the Hog's Breath, that was destroyed in a hurricane. But the new location, they moved the actual bar, so that bar they're sitting on still exists.
And there is a plaque
down in Destin.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it's got a little sign that says this bar used in Jaws too. So yeah.
Wow. You were talking about my death, and I see Robert.
Yes, and this kind of ties in. I would have. Yes.
Yeah. I never thought of this as first of all, I never thought of this as a slasher movie or even a horror movie until we started being invited to these conventions. And I was like, real? Oh, I guess it is, But anyway, in the John Hancock version, I was supposed to be swimming towards shore at the end, and then you see me push through the water, much like Gary Dubin gets killed in the Eddie Tina scene. And Roy was going to reach down, and as he pulled me up, only this much of me was going to come out of the water.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, when it suddenly wasn't an R-rated movie, and when John was gone, suddenly they decided it was just going to have I don't know why this would be better. The bottoms of my legs would be chewed off instead. So they had me on the pontoon, and they made a cast of my legs, I believe. Can't remember now. And the shark was going to chomp those off. That was, again, too bloody or whatever. So we ended up shooting me on top of the pontoon. I don't know if you have a picture of that. I found a picture, and I never seen it before. But it's me on the pontoon swimming towards shore, and the shark was going to crash down on top of me, sort of like when Marge gets killed. And I was going to be the last death in the film. And they shot it with a stuntman. And I saw the dailies, and I said, "Why did you shoot him with a stuntman? Why couldn't I do that?" I said, "He doesn't look like me. He's 20 years older than I am, So, and I went to David Brown, and I said, "Can we reshoot it?" And he said, "Well, okay, but it has to be the last thing we shoot in Florida." I said, "Why does it have to be the last thing we shoot in Florida?" He said, "In case you die." So,
like for real die, like didn't make through the scene
so,
die.
So we shot the thing. I remember Michael Butler called me Buster Keaton because I was doing my own. And they put ropes around my waist, and they had scuba divers underwater. And as the shark crashed down on top of me, they yanked me out of the way. So it really was a stupid thing for me to be doing. But so we shot that. And then I didn't know if I lived or died, quite frankly, because they had me crawl up on the rocks. That was when I flew out with Jane and went to Lucy's house. The reshoot we did was me crawling up on the rocks going, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." But I didn't know until I saw the movie in the theater whether I lived or died there. And unfortunately, I lived because it was great. And if you see the end of the film, when the camera pulls back, I'm not on Cable Junction because I'm dead. So you have to assume I swam around the back of the island. Back there. But anyway, so that sequence, they kept poor Donna, screaming in that thing because when it was originally shot, Robert, this will answer your question. The shark went through the trampoline of our boat, the Sizzler.
Mhm.
Everybody fell in the water. Donna's screaming because she's watching me get eaten 3 feet away from her. There's more that you can find pictures of this, of David Elliott, Larry freaking out and being restrained by Andy because he's going after his friend who's getting killed. It was a great sequence of stuff, and they didn't choose it. The ratings board said if you kill one more person, it's an R-rated movie. And I remember Verna Fields went to the ratings board and said, "Oh, wait a minute! You just did a John Wayne movie where an entire town blows up and there's 100 people get killed," and they said, "Well, that's different because we don't know them." So yeah,
No
Doesn't
point.
matter. It's all good. Bystanders.
unfortunately, people knew me, so I had to live.
Well,
And it was the only death they could fake their way out of because it happened at the end of the film. So, but that's what that's about. And poor Donna has been. People give her such a hard time for screaming. She didn't scream on her own.
They
She was
really
told
do.
to scream. She was told to
they
scream.
really do. Yeah.
You know.
I have to say, and the fact that the only protection you had was they tied a rope around your waist. Like you would, in my mind, I guess nowadays you think there'd be like, oh, we had 3 scuba guys or frogmen down there, and we had a respirator for it. Nope, we tied a rope around his waist.
And we didn't have, other than that one thing with the guy being me on the thing getting killed. We didn't have any stunt people that I know of, unless I missed something, because we were 18, 19 years old, all of us, and we did whatever we were told. Take your boat and sail it into the other boat. Okay, boom. Jump in the water, but there are sharks. Don't worry, we have dart guns. Oh, okay.
Don't worry, we tied a rope around your waist so we can drag your dead body back in, so we at least recover you. Yes.
And then the other one was lay on top of the trampoline, and we're going to throw helicopter blades.
Oh yes. Ooh yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first day we were there. First time I met Murray Hamilton, who I loved. He was a character, man. He came up to Keith and Tom and I were sitting together, and he just came up to us. Hadn't introduced himself yet. They'll kill you, and if they get the shot, they won't care. That was my introduction to doing movies. Murray used to walk around with he always had shorts and a sports jacket on for some reason, and he'd hang out in the bar, and he always had a lobster claw in holding it in his hand, so it looked like that was his hand. So if anybody wanted to meet him and they stuck out their hand, he'd give them a lobster claw.
Oh my gosh.
I love that guy.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, he was great.
Unbelievable. That's great.
I wish they had kept a lot of that footage. That they just
the way they document things now. I mean, could you imagine seeing those things on film? I mean, it would have been incredible. Yeah.
I think, and Michael, because I know you scoured every inch to try and find it. I think it got destroyed in the Universal fire in the whatever that was, the 90s or something.
Yeah. It's the only thing they had when I went through the vaults or through the list of stuff in the vaults were the shark tests or the Hancock shark tests. But because I know Lenora May told me a story where she had filmed the scene on the vineyard with Tegan West, and then she had gotten replaced, but then she auditioned for something, and her agent was able to get that footage to show the prospective casting director. But
that's great.
Wow.
So I've seen a lot of stills of Tegan and Ricky Schroeder.
Yes, I've seen that as well.
Poor kid. They fire him and send him home with green hair because his hair. They dyed his hair brown for the movie, and then the sun turned to green, and then they fired him. Good luck to you.
There's something to remember you by. All right.
Horrible.
Well, and in the original casting, you were Quint's son, weren't you?
They told me that. I don't know that there was any dialogue to say that other than I was the first scene. And I think we shot it. I don't remember. Remember shooting a scene where I rode a bike and David got a ticket from Roy Scheider. Right? That's all I remember. But shooting. But I think we shot it. It was supposed to be my introductory character scene was on the Chappaquiddick ferry, whistling or humming or something, the same shanty that Robert Shaw did. I think that was the only real connection that I was supposed to. That was when they called me Sideburns, and they had me grow
big sideburns.
Yeah.
And then when Carl when Carl rewrote the script, sideburns were gone, and my name was Bob Burnsides. Why, I don't know. And but I did find out they called me Bob because of the death in the first movie. Because after this monster meat came out of the water, I just bobbed in the water. So went sideburns to Bob. So
Oh my goodness,
That's funny.
that is unbelievable. We do have another comment or two, if you don't mind. I'll pull up here real quick. So,
great.
so we got Robin chiming in. Seriously, breaks my heart that Bob's death did not make it in the final cut. Yes, it sounds like, and there have been people who have tried to take like the shot of you laying on the upside down boat or whatever and tried to kind of doctor it to make it look like it was like someone was trying to do that. I've seen many people try and do that. Yeah,
I've gotten some lovely fan artwork of my death from people. That it's pretty cool. And I went to hang it up in the living room. My wife went, "Really, the death scene?" I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
Janie's saying you swam to Ireland here. Janie's she's one of our co-hosts. She's not here today, but she sent a message. Want to know if I would just kind of read it to you real quick if if you're all right with that. Let me pull it up. She said, I just wanted to drop by and say a big hello to Billy. I apologize for my absence, but a few years ago, you said a very big happy birthday to one of my best friends a handful of years back. One of my best memories with you on the show was that time, and she has passed away from COVID months later after that. But it still warms my heart that she was so happy to hear from you and knowing that you had worked with Lucille Ball. It was one of her best birthday gifts I could have given her. Also, to everyone celebrating the upcoming week, happy Thanksgiving from our good friend JJ. Enjoy the turkey hangovers.
JJ.
So yes,
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah.
You're our first repeat guest.
Am I? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
he
Gary,
is. You're right.
I hope
Gary came on briefly after Nicholas died because we did a little piece on Nick. But yeah, you're our first repeat guest.
Oh, I
You're
hope I'm not telling all the same
you're
stories.
the two-host club. Like Saturday Night Live has like the dozen host club. You're in the
I
two.
gotta get a jacket. I gotta get a jacket.
Well, and to be honest with you, I mean, as we're sitting here talking about Jaws too, I'm really fascinated by a lot of, the other things you did. And I thought we'd maybe get into a little bit of that. I mean, just a lot of the shows, the TV shows, and then your whole playwright history, I think, not foreshadows or shadows what you did with like Jaws too, but I just think, there's, I mean, incredible amount of, talent there and, lineage there. I think it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I try and keep busy, It's like if I always do 12 things at once, and if that one doesn't work, I've got the other one to go to,
I try to pull up just a couple shows. I mean, you've done a lot of writing for, I mean, unbelievable and more current here, but these are just ones I wanted to kind of pull up and at least kind of, address with people.
Yeah. So, yeah. Suddenly Susan, I was brought in the last minute. They, a drama had been written about this girl starting her life over again, and they wanted to turn it into a sitcom for Brooke, and the original writer attempted to do that, and I think he looked down his nose at sitcoms and wrote it like that. So they said, "Can you come in?" So Jane and I came in, and we wrote the pilot that we shot in 24 hours because it was up against a time crunch. And so we did that. Show got picked up, and it ran for 5 years. Martin, I was brought in. I originally thought it was. They said, "Do you want to write a show for Martin Lawrence?" And out in California, there are a whole bunch of galleries and malls called the Martin Lawrence Galleries. I thought it was a gallery show. And then I met him. We did. We created a lot of the characters he played. Roscoe, the little kid, and Otis, the security guard, and a couple of the other ones. We also created the Garrett Morris character and his sidekick. and I think I co-executive produced that for the first season and wrote most of the script. Um, and the interesting thing is my original show was first TV show I did. I'd already written maybe 9 or 10 plays. Was Newhart, and Bob Newhart and Martin Lawrence worked the same way in front of an audience. They did one take, and great for me back in Lucy times, one take,
Sure.
like a play, and move on. And all they cared about was the audience in the bleachers watching us film, and it shows in the performances. You can see there's something about a live show as opposed to let's do it again. Okay, now let's change this line, and
Sure.
you know. And Wayans Brothers was another one I was brought in at the last minute. I replaced the guy who was attempting to create the show. It was the first show that would have been on the WB network, and there was a time crunch. It was going live on a certain date, and when the Warner Brothers people finally looked at all the work that this guy had done, they realized he hadn't done anything. He had 5 different scripts, and they were 5 different ideas of shows, so it wasn't working. They brought us in, and I ended up accidentally firing the previous guy because they told me, you're going to run the show, so go and meet them. I was like, okay, and I run in to meet them, and they're sitting there with some guy, and I introduced myself, and I said, I'm the new showrunner, and he said, oh, hi, I guess I'm the fired showrunner, and
Wow.
so they were crazy. Marlon always imitated me, and I never understood the imitation at all. He uses hands like this a lot and talking voice. And his brother thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and no one around me knew what he was doing. But that was an imitation of me. Newhart was my first show, as I said. Bob Newhart was the greatest. He and Don Rickles that I worked with were my 2 favorite people to write for.
Don Rickles. Wow.
Yeah. And Life with Lucy was a big moment in my life. Yeah, that's some of the
awesome.
shows. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
incredible.
We did a lot of. Jane and I wrote for a lot of stand-up comics, and it's a whole different mindset you have to get into because they've been their own writer, producer, director for a couple of years, maybe 10 years before you've ever come along, and now you have to take what they do, and now you're in charge of what works and what doesn't work. So it's a touchy sort of thing to get into, but we've been very successful with doing that, and yeah. So a lot of them too.
Were they
was,
collaborative? Like, if you could write something for Newhart, would he come up to you and say, "Well, Billy, I would say it like this," or I might not say this at all?
What Bob would do is say, "This is funnier coming out of Julia Duffy's mouth. This is funnier coming out of so-and-so's mouth." And I said to him, why are you giving away so many jokes? And he said, as long as the show's good, my name's on it. It's like, oh, yeah, right. Right. And he didn't want to work with a laugh track. He said, if people at home don't find it funny, they're not going to laugh just because you shoved a laugh in there. So don't put it in. Like, that was great. And but I really liked working with him. I also liked working with him because we shot the show at I guess like 7 o'clock at night on Fridays. We start on Monday and shoot it on Friday, and we start at 7 o'clock. And he had a standing dinner reservation at 9 o'clock, and you had to be done in 2 hours and get into the restaurant. So that was great. It wasn't any of those you're sitting in the writer's room till 4 o'clock in the morning things that a lot of.
And he and Rickles were best friends, right?
Yeah, and I got the first time I wrote for Don was on that show. He guest starred on the Newhart show, and I wrote this. Jane and I wrote this thing for him, and then years later, Richard Lewis asked me to and Jane to write Daddy Dearest for Don to play his father, and so we did that one too. And boy, did I love working with him. He was a lot of times. Excuse me, when you rehearse a TV show, you have an empty sound stage until you shoot it. On the Don Rickles Richard Lewis show, our bleachers were packed with people from all over the lot that they would come just to watch Don and hope that he'd insult them. and he did. He would rehearse with one eye on the audience and start picking on that guy and start picking on that guy, and it was hilarious, funny. but you know, yeah. So yeah, I've had a fun time in TV. I put all that together in my. The first book was what's the name of it? Get in the Car, Jane.
Car Jane.
Mm-hmm.
And that every chapter's about a different TV show that I'd created or produced, and then the new book is all about the play. We got 25 plays, so the plays are broken into chapters too, and you put the two books together, you sort of get what I did.
Speaking of Jane, our other co-host Janie just happened to pop on. If you don't mind, I'm going to bring her in here real quick, and I would like to kind of finish up today, if we could, on your latest book, if that's all right.
Sure, happy to.
Hey,
Hello.
Janie. Hello,
Hello.
Janie. Thanks for hopping on.
Hi,
Hey, Bill.
guys. Hi,
you-
Billy. How
Hello,
are you?
I'm good. Surprise guest, it says on your thing.
Well,
There you go.
Jane!
Jane! I do that every now and then just to keep them on their toes. So
Excellent.
if they know it's JJC, they're like, oh God, it's her again.
It's her
But if I
again.
say surprise guest, then they know it's, hey, whatever.
There you go.
Listen, this is just listening to you. I had to hop on because if I don't, number one, I'm an idiot. Number two, I have been such a big fan anyway of you, and I'm going to reiterate what I had Nate say. I that was probably the best birthday gift I've ever could have given my best friend. So thank you so much for that.
That means a lot.
It meant so much to her, and she cried. And then, little did we know, months later she would pass. So I want you to know that you have fans all over the world.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. But really, the main thing I came back on is because I'd be an idiot if I didn't come in here and tell you. I really would. So I'm taking my chance.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us more about your book. I want to hear about this.
The new book is called Because It's Funny, and I had just everybody kept saying, when are you going to do a sequel to the first book? And it made sense to do about the plays because that's the equal parts of my career, really. And we've been lucky enough, they're done in thousands of theaters all over the place. And I had done a benefit for a college performing arts center that we worked at for many years. I gave out scholarships and put people through college there and stuff. And at the benefit, all my regular actors that I've been working with for 46, 48 years, they flew in from all over the country to do this benefit. And then all the stories started, all the backstage stories. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And I went, oh, there's the book. There's the book. Great. And I started and I wrote it right from there. It came out really great as far as I'm concerned. And we got some really nice reviews. And if you put the two books together, I think it paints a really good picture of my late partner, Jane Milmore. And so I wanted to put the history of the plays down, but I also wanted to pay tribute to the actors and the designers that have worked with me for years and made the show successful. Because we've been very lucky with that. It started out as an actor writing a play for himself to act in. When the translation of that is, it's all about me, what can I do on stage? And then I started to learn how to write. And through the year, if you read all our plays in order, you can see the learning curve of how I got to be a better writer, actually. But I'm really thrilled with the way it turned out. And then the last little chunk of the book, I couldn't remember, because there's 25 of them, and I've been doing other things too. But the first couple of shows, I remember writing them, I remember doing them, but I didn't remember any stories that went with them. And I called up the cast members and said, send me whatever your thoughts are. Hopefully it'll spark something. And they sent me so much stuff that I went through it and went, oh yeah, and I fixed those chapters. But then I went, I got to use all of this stuff. So at the last fifth of the book, it's a part of the book I call the cast ad libs. and I broke everything they wrote to me in different sections. What they all thought about the rehearsals, me as a director, Jane by herself,
Aww.
and it paints a really good picture of how we all work together. Because I've been very, very lucky with those, with the people that I work with, and I wanted to pay tribute to them.
That's a good testimony then
Yeah.
for how you are as a director and writer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, somebody said, well, it's really nice that you use the same people and all. And I said, well, if they weren't good, I wouldn't use them twice. So they're good. And there's something about working with the same people all the time. I do it on my TV shows too, or did. I haven't done TV in a while. But there's a shorthand when you're working with the same people all the time. You don't have to explain that much to get them to do what you want, director. And luckily for me, they've all been incredibly good comedians. So everything we've ever done has been comedy. So in the rehearsal process, I know I can give something to, let's say, this guy Tom Frascatore, who's been with me forever. And I know that he'll embellish and change, fix some things, and then I write towards that. So I write towards people that I want to write with, I want to work with. If they don't even do the role, I hear their voice, and it makes it a very distinct character. I do that for almost every script we've ever written, TV or film or whatever. I write with specific people in mind, whether I cast them or not, because you just hear their voice. And I also pay tribute to our audiences, because we go back to the same area in New Jersey to introduce all our plays, and then we do them up in New York off Broadway, and then they go all over the world. But the original productions, I've had some of the same audience members at all 25 of the shows. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just great. So it's like going back to be with family every time I go do a show. And we've been touring the last show. We've stopped just recently for the holidays and for my book stuff. But the last show that Jane and I wrote was called the Boomer Boys musical, and it's 4 older guys talking about the changes men of a certain age go through. And I never wanted to write this. My a musical director friend said, I have an idea for a show. Can I meet with you guys? And I said, no, because we don't take other people's ideas. We do our own thing. And Shane said, oh, he's a friend. Let's meet him. So we met with him. He said, I want to do a show about the changes men of a certain age go through. And before I could even open my mouth, Jane said, we'll do it. I said, what do you mean we'll do it? He said, I'd rather write about it than hear you talk about it all the time. So that's what we did. And the response to that's been great. So we've been touring all over the country with it. And in a weird way, it makes Jane, who passed away 4 years ago now, it makes her still with us when we're on that stage. So it's been good.
That's awesome.
It really is. And if I could plug your website. In fact, what I'll try and do is bring it up here quick. If you get on there, you can take a look at every one of these plays that you guys have done, and I guess that even are picked up and then run from there. Let me pull that up here.
Yeah, the fun part now is I go country to country and look at the shows, because they're done in different languages and stuff. And it's not something I ever would have thought about. There it is, VanZandt Milmore Productions. VanZandtMilmore.com is what it is. But yeah, these are all the shows. Yeah, it's fun going to see the foreign shows, because comedy is comedy, and you can see people's timing, whether you can speak the language or not. If somebody's funny or not. And yeah, I haven't looked at this for a while. If you go on, in fact, if you go on there's a page called around. Go back up to the top, if you would, under productions. So, yeah, now go to around the world, or around the U.S. Do around the U.S.
Oh, I'll grab that there.
You'll see all the different cities that have done our shows, not productions. These are just the cities that have done
wow. Look at
Oh,
that.
no kidding.
Wow.
Impressive. Wow.
This goes on for about 10 minutes. I'm sorry. But by the time
You've been
done,
pinged.
By the time it's done, the entire map of the United States is red. But
That's amazing.
the funny part is this was only 1979 was the first show, 1979 through 2014, and then I froze they were inputting all the data, and they froze the program.
Look
And
at that.
they can't get any more in there. So they called the person who created the program, and they said no one's ever put this much data into the or so I broke their I broke their app.
Broke the website.
Billy broke the internet.
It's like Mike Tyson and Netflix, you know? Last week.
Yeah, really. And it doesn't.
Holy cow.
And then if
Yeah,
you
but this
do,
is a better show.
Absolutely. Yes.
then if you do
Without a
around the world, you'll see it pop up all over the world too. So anyway,
Well, John, I'm going to be back down in Tampa next summer, so
Cool.
let's find 2 more old guys and we'll do Boomer Boys down there.
there you go. There you
There
go.
you go.
Or
Yeah.
Billy can come do it with us.
That'd be
I'll
great.
invite you to do your own place there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if I could, on a personal note here, I wanted to put something out there that I just think is extraordinary. I love to see when people give back, and one of the things that I saw is that you do it, you know, and you humbly mentioned it, but you have scholarships set up for people who are, you know, interested in this, you know, through a local. Is it a college in New Jersey? Is that where it's set up through?
At Brookdale, yeah, that's what we worked out of New Jersey, the same area, but it ended up, if you break our career down into
Mm-hmm.
3 different places where we did Brookdale starting in 1997 with a show called Silent Laughter that we took off Broadway, and the students work with our crew. They are our crew when we do those shows. They work with the designers, and occasionally 1 or 2 will end up in the show somewhere. But they had such a good tech stagecraft program there that we thought, let's give them a scholarship for the tech people, not for the people who want to be actors, because it seems like everybody always gives them stuff, you know. But
Yeah.
we did, so I think we put, I don't even know the number, like 30 people through college.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome. I mean, really, honestly, really
I'd like
is.
that money back now, but you know, no, it's all
I-
good.
I just think it's neat to see someone who, you know, has had the career you did and has worked that hard, and then to turn around and try and give back, and that's just really impressive.
Well, you know, when I went to high school, I mean, there's, like I said, there was nobody in my brother's a musician, but he wasn't big until after I got out of high school. We didn't have anybody to ask questions of. I didn't know how to do anything in terms of going into show business. I just knew I wanted to perform. So I always told myself if I ever got to any modicum of success, I wanted to go back. So I go back and talk to the high school students all the time and answer whatever questions they may have about how to do this. And, you know, because I had nobody, you know, I just made it up as I went along, which is probably the best way to do it anyway, because what I've learned in all these years in show business and all the different forms, nobody knows anything. You're sort of making it up as you go anyway, you know.
Very true.
True.
Fake it
Very
till
true.
you make it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
if somebody
fake it till you make it.
somebody says no, you go around the way back.
Find another direction.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Good life lesson. Good life lesson. Yeah. Well, as we round out the hour here,
Oh, that went fast. Oh, yeah.
it did go fast, and yeah, I mean, trust me, and we'd love to have you on here as long as you want to stay on. But on the same hand, I was trying to be courteous of time. On the same hand, I do need to point out, not too many people we have on has their own street named after them, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. That was.
There we go.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
You've done your homework. Yeah. This was it's still called Wilson Avenue, but it says VanZandt Way at the very top. You know, it's a dedication thing. This came out of the blue for Stephen and myself, and it was great. There must have been 700 people there in the streets, and you know, and I'm up there giving my little speech, and I look out, and it's like, there's my next door neighbors. There are the people I went to church with. There's the people from my junior high. My whole life laid out in front of me. It was a very emotional day. And
Yeah.
those signs that you see right there, those bigger ones, they had Stephen and me sign them, a whole bunch of them. They were going to auction them off, and I haven't told anybody this, but I'll tell you. So we go out to lunch afterwards. Just Stephen and my sister Kathy, who's there, and my kids and myself. And Walker, one of my sons, goes, Dad, come here. What? You know those signs that you signed? Yeah. There's one in the trunk of the car. So it's now hanging in my office over there.
That's neat. That's cool.
Nice.
That's the rare one. That's right. Yeah, I
That's,
got a
yeah.
VanZandt. You don't have the one his son jacked and put in the back of the trunk to get here, though, do you?
Exactly. You know, we used to take road signs as a kid, but not someone that signed it. So, man, that's real commodity right there.
That's true.
And we didn't get the cops called on either. So there you go.
That's right. Yeah. So,
Unbelievable.
but that was a special day. We've had a good year, and then Stephen had there's 2 documentaries that came out this year with him in it that are great, and so yeah, it's been a good year for the VanZandt family. I will say that.
Good to hear.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Good to hear.
All
And
right.
your book went on sale Monday. Yep. I got
because
mine ordered. I got my email. Mine's in the mail. So.
oh, great, good. And yeah, and you know, and while we're at it, they make good Christmas presents.
Hey,
Absolutely.
welcome to early Black Friday on Let's Talk Jobs Live.
There you go. That's it.
Perfect timing as well. Absolutely.
I have a question for him.
All right.
And it just popped into my little brain. Okay. So with theater as your background, and Mike and John and I all have theater background as well. With Community, I don't know about Nate, but I mean, I understand why you did the scholarships, because I was a stagehand. I did lighting. I did set design. You know, and sometimes sometimes every now and then I would come out and be the smart ass on the, comic relief or whatever. But as far as today's Broadway shows, what is your favorite right now?
Well, here's the thing. I write comedy for a living, so I
Correct.
don't enjoy going to any of them. I don't
Really?
find comedies entertaining for me, because I sit in the audience going, "They're doing that wrong. I would have cast somebody."
Nice. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So if it's some sort of dark show or a musical, I'll go see those. But I don't go see any comedies. I think the last comedy I saw was The Play That Goes Wrong, and they did a fantastic job.
I've seen
But
that.
I also did that exact same show called Drop Dead 15 years before they did, and I sat in the audience going, "That's from my show. That's from my show."
Well, in 1978, I made a student film about a robot that came back from the future. So James Cameron owes me a little Terminator money too. I feel your pain.
Exactly what I'm. You know exactly what.
Feel your pain.
Yeah, there it is.
Nice.
Look at him.
And at the end of this, I'm actually going to, if you're okay with it, I will put your website up across the
that'd be
pages there
great.
for people to check out. Yeah, I think that'd be great.
That's
All
great.
good
They can
information.
get if they want, they can get the book from that, or they can just go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and do it that way too. But this is great. I have a good time with you guys, so this is good.
Yeah, very good
Always
time.
good to
Awesome.
see ya.
Love having you on. If you have time for one question, we have someone who asked a question has been waiting. Could I pull that up real quick? Thank you, Billy. Here we go. Question for Billy: do you ever get writer's block, and if so, how do you deal with it?
Well, here's my unpopular answer to that. I don't believe in writer's block at all. I think I think that's an excuse that lazy people use. I'm sorry. My feeling is, and I'll try to explain. I don't mean to insult anybody. My feeling is, spit out that first draft. Just spit it out. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Just get it out. Because the easiest thing to do is to go back into something and go, "Oh, I can fix that. That's wrong.
Correct it.
So for me, I don't believe in writer's block. I get up. I basically, as soon as I'm dressed in the morning, I'm at the computer and I just play and rewrite and edit and all that stuff. But I think if anybody's been on my writing staff, you normally get 3 weeks to write a first draft on a TV show, and I would be like, no, you don't need more than a week. You have a week to write that first draft because you're going to go back in and change stuff anyway. I think of writing like it's a big block of marble, let's say, and you start chipping away at it, and then eventually it gets down to what you want it to be. But the first draft is that big ugly block that means nothing, and then you sort of get, oh, there's where it's supposed to be, you know. So whether you structure things first or you just go in and start writing and let the characters take you where they want, just do it. Just do it. You know, to me, the hardest thing to do is to take a blank page and start doing something. And but if you just get it out, it doesn't have to be good. Just get it out, and then you start to fix things. So that's a lot of writers get mad at me when I say I don't believe in writer's block. And perhaps if you read some of my stuff, you go, well, you probably had writer's block in this one because this is terrible. But but to me, it's all fun. I just enjoy doing it.
Awesome. Well, Billy, we want to really thank you for your time coming on and hanging out with us today. Absolutely love. I could just sit back and just listen to the stories, to be perfectly honest with you. Just
thank you. This is great. I really enjoyed it, and thanks for jumping in there, Jane.
Oh no, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Awesome. Very cool. And
you weren't hiding on Cable Junction. You just swam to Ireland. That's why you weren't on.
That's what he said too. What's next?
That's
Ireland.
right.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
What's past Cable Junction? Ireland.
I think I see another sequel in there somewhere.
Oh yes.
Yeah. See.
Paddled to Ireland with the hat. He was paddling with the hat. Remember?
Yeah. Paddling with the hat. Just oh look, Titanic, and it just kept going.
He still has the hat.
I still have the hat, and
you have the hat.
You do?
Yeah. It's in storage. I don't have it here. But the last little mini reunion we did at the Chiller in New Jersey, I can't remember the guy's name right now. I'm sorry, but he has a big collection of all the Jaws and Jaws 2 stuff. And every time I see him, you can sell me the hat? No, I'm not going to sell you the hat.
Big burly guy.
Yeah.
Ace Frehley's bodyguard.
He's good. Yeah.
Chris Kiska.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's got the fighting chair and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, he's got all kinds of
very
stuff.
nice guy. I told him if I ever sell it, I'll sell it to you. But I'm not. You know, my kids don't want me to sell it, so I'm not. You know, it's not that I don't walk around wearing it. It's just in a box. So.
Awesome. Well, again, incredible time. Thank you for hanging out with us, spending part of your Saturday with us.
Sorry for the we had a little bit of a late start because I find the
our audience is used to it.
So. All right, good.
It's a bit of a tradition to be at least a few minutes late. And
all right.
And honestly, I apologize for just communication back and forth. It just wasn't. And you know what? No big deal. It worked out great. Honestly, being selfish, I had a blast. I'm hoping everyone has such a good time as I did.
We're sort of the better late than never show. So here you go.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, and we got quite a few people saying thank you. Thanks for coming on, Billy. Great to see you.
Thanks, Robert. And
Robin. Absolutely. And Robert, yes. And definitely want to thank you for your time, and want to thank everyone at home for kind of jumping on. And again, I'll be posting up the website across the pages for you guys at home want to check it out, and definitely get on there and check out his books. He's got 2 of them now, and the newest one just came out. It was last week, wasn't released on the newest one?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
well,
you. And I'll see you.
Thank you.
See you a third time at some point.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. We'd love to have you on again.
Billy, if they order off your site, you sign it, right? It's signed?
Yeah.
So instead of going to Amazon, go to Billy.
Good point to make. Yeah. Yes.
Merry Christmas to me. Merry Christmas.
There you go. Yeah. As soon as we get off here.
All right.
As soon as we're off here, I'll make sure that gets put up there and set for you. So absolutely.
Terrific.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, bud.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Billy.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks.